All right. Can you hear me in the back? Hello, Internet. Yeah? You're coming through loud and clear? Groovy, 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 groovy. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right. How's that coffee doing? How's that coffee doing? Yeah, great. And the other sundries for breakfast? Yeah. Did you? And don't thank me. Thank the team. What did you like the most? The yogurt, the little bananas.
Why are the bananas so adorable?
Okay, so you got to thank Kate for the adorable bananas. That is her signature breakfast. My name is Noel, Executive Director. We're still a little rusty when it comes to hosting large in-person events, as you can imagine. So I'm just going to give a write-off, an apology if this is a little coarse. But you know, we're still figuring out how to come out of this thing all safe and sound. With that being said, I just want to make sure that because we are in a very large room, that we respect each other's air. It's actually part of our core mission. So if you're not eating or drinking actively, please do put on a mask. We have so much data that demonstrates that when we gather in large groups, and if we wear masks, that this is how we stay safe from so many airborne viruses. And we want to be super courteous and conscientious of the fact that we do breathe each other's air. And we're in a room. This is a tight room. We have the ventilation system kind of kicking right now. It's going to be cold, colder. So let's just wear masks. It helps us all out. Thank you. So welcome to NYC School of Data 2023. Once again, my name is Noel. I'm the Executive Director, and I want to say welcome, Universe. We are being live streamed right now by the Internet Society New York chapter. Jolly and Pam in the back are dedicated volunteers, employees of the Internet Society. If you're tuning in live, or if you want to tell your friends to tune in live, this room right here will be live streamed all day long. For those of you who are in the middle, essentially on the back side, in front of that camera that's in the middle, the back of your head is going to be on camera. So just be mindful of that. For those of you who are going to be coming into this room later and are wearing red lanyards and want to be conscientious about the fact that this room is being live streamed all day, just sit toward the sides. So thank you, Internet Society. How many of you have come to School of Data before? Oh, okay, good, about 50%. For those of you who haven't, I just like to start off with a reminder of where we are in the universe. We're here. I don't know if you can see that little small speck, but that is us. And let's do a little close-up of this little selfie here. On the right, it is the infamous blue marble photo. On the left, it is the furthest selfie that we have. That is a photo from Spaceship Voyager off in the distance with the rays of, I believe, Saturn saying hello. Everything that we do, all of our consciousness that we have somehow amassed so far that we know of, is on this blue dot. In the grand scheme of things, small things really do matter, as we are a small thing in a big universe. We are here together to share each other's company, to share each other's knowledge, and to engage in small acts of kindness and respect. And I am so deeply thankful that we are able to come back together in person again, thanks to all the science and the courteousness that we provide to each other. So remember, today, small things matter deeply. We are on the unceded lands of the Lenape people. These are people that came before us. There is a line in the book at the island of the center of the world that talks about how the Dutch didn't quite understand the Lenape, more or less, use of the area. To them, the Lenape fundamentally believed that you can't own air and you can't own water, so how can you own the land? And we carry forth this tradition that we are the stewards of the air, the land, the water, and our communities. We really shepherd all of our work forward collectively, making sure that we're hopefully around for multiple generations. The last time that we met was 525,600 minutes ago. How many of you are fans of Broadway? Okay, so for those of you who aren't, I'm going to introduce you to a little song. 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes, how do you measure in a year? In data sets, in rows, in midnight projects, in cups of coffee, in regressions, in pie charts, in bike rides, in miles, in dirty diapers, in laughter, in strife. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in a life? How about love? Let's measure our years in love. 525,600 minutes, we have collectively rotated around a hot ball of fusion energy. And in that span, some of us have lost our jobs, our homes, and opportunities. Others have lost neighbors, our loved ones, our elders, and our friends. At the same time, we have gained new family members, developed new friendships, launched new endeavors, and further gained an appreciation for those small things. And in the memory of what we've lost and in what we've gained, we gather today at NYC School of Data. I am going to get emotional because it has been a very rough year, and so apologies for the waterworks. I want to give a huge appreciation to the BetaNYC team. For those of you who have not met us in the past, we are mighty. This is a collection of the current staff. We have 4 full-time staff members, 2 apprentices, 1 associate, and 6 CUNY fellows. Over the last year, this team has weathered a tremendous storm where essentially I needed to take care of my family. And this organization wouldn't exist today in its strength if it wasn't for these individuals. And I really want to give just a heartfelt thanks for what they have done for all of us as a community to take care of us over the past year. And so we can give them a huge round of appreciation. Today, we are gathered today, over 40 organizations have come together to host sessions, and we want to thank them as members of their community, of our community. We want to thank our dedicated sponsors, the Office of Technology and Innovation, Data Through Design, reInvent Albany, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, Esri, CUNY Law School, the City, Dandelion Wine, and Rockaway Brewery. These organizations have helped us fund and support the operations of today, and that couldn't be possible without the volunteers. For those of you who have volunteered at a BetaNYC event, can I just give you a huge round of thanks, and can you stand up just briefly if you can? All right. I know the chairs are a little funky. These are the names of all of the over 50 volunteers who are here today. They have these lovely, lovely vests. These are the on-duty vests. So you will see some people wearing BetaNYC t-shirts. They are currently volunteers, possibly off-duty. If you see somebody wearing a vest, that means that they're on duty. They can give you active assistance. So please look out for them. Prioritize the vest over somebody wearing a BetaNYC shirt. Thank you, CUNY Law School. How many of you are a student here? Not too many? Okay, great. this is their spring break, so I can understand why they may not be here. This is the #1 public interest law school in the nation. They helped coin the phrase public interest law. They have helped frame more or less the community that we are now a part of in the public interest technology space. And we're really, really appreciative for them providing us free reign of their campus, their vertical campus, for roughly 2 days. We are very courteous, we're very kind. We were here in 2020, right as the world seemingly was coming apart. We were kind to their venue then. We want to be kind to their venue today. And we are very, very thankful to come to CUNY Law School. I have been told by the events manager that if you are so interested in hosting an event here, please know that they offer reasonable rental rates for this large room and their campus. And if you are in the film and television space, you are very welcome to come back and rent out their mock courtrooms that they have in the floors. Now we're going to move to our VIP sessions. Speakers. I'm going to first introduce Keesha Gaskins-Nathan, who's the program director from the Democratic Practice at the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And so if we can give a huge round of applause to Keesha.
Thank you. I think we changed the order. I promised I wouldn't be first. It's okay. So good morning, everybody. Okay, that was terrible. So we're going to try this one more time. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Right on. Now I know I'm amongst friends. Thank you all so much. We wanted to just say thank you to BetaNYC and to all you all doing this amazing work in the city of New York City and in New York State. The Rockefeller Brothers Fund has existed for over 75 years and has focused on democratic practice. And for us, that's something different than just a democracy program. We care about democratic systems, but we also recognize the importance of democratic culture. And it's the intersection of systems and culture that actually define our practice of democracy. What does it mean to practice democracy? What does it mean to show up? What does it mean to engage around these questions? And one of the reasons we support BetaNYC is because of the infrastructure it provides in supporting events like this and others to ensure the opportunity to provide data to actually advance equity in the city. For our civil society organizations that we support in many, many other ways also touch BetaNYC. And we really appreciate the ability for data to tell the stories, to define the space, to give meaning, depth, and breadth to the anecdotal experience of how people function and operate in the world, to make sure that as we litigate cases, the information is available, to make sure that as we advocate before legislatures, the information is coherent, cogent, and tells us what we need to know. To define the experience and to understand that how we understand what happens to people in the world very much defines their opportunity, and to recognize that there is a gross misalignment frequently between how systems and processes impact people and how people experience their lives. And it is a work that you all are doing to define and understand and share those distinctions to make it possible. And we are thrilled to be able to be in the space and to find support and create opportunity for this work to be done in the world. So thank you very much for allowing us to support you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and please do not hesitate to reach out to our program. We are one of the few programs at the Rockefeller Brother Funds that accepts unsolicited grant applications. If you are doing good work around democracy and democratic practice in the city of New York, we will accept applications even if you don't know who I am. And that is a rare thing, I admit. So please don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate to come find me and talk to me about your work. This is what we care about. This is what we do. And we thank you every single day for the work you do for the city and for the people. Thank you so much.
All right. Black mask. Excellent. Thank you. And now we move on to one of our most dedicated city partners. Actually, I will just say our most dedicated city partner, the Chief Analytics Officer from the City of New York, the head of the Open Data Program, the, what's the other one? The Chief Open Platforms Officer. Wow, Martha Norrick.
Hi. Hi, everybody. It's so exciting to be here today at School of Data. As Noel said, I'm Martha Norrick, and I have the pleasure of serving as the city's Chief Analytics Officer and Chief Open Platform Officer. I've been in this position since January of 2021. It feels really great to be back at CUNY Law School. I was here at the School of Data in March of 2020, where we were all very conscientiously bumping elbows, but just like breathing all over each other, because we did not know yet what was coming for us. Just a moment to say thank you to vaccines and to everybody that worked so tirelessly to help their fellow New Yorkers through those scary times and get us back here to this place where we can all be together to celebrate our true love, open data. So before, though, I launch into some very brief remarks, I wanted to recognize some extremely important people, and I'd like to start. I know we've already done a little bit of like raise your hand if, but we're going to do one more. Raise your hand if you are an open data coordinator or involved in open data at a city agency. Woo! Oh yeah, there we go. That's some good hands. Everybody give these people a big round of applause. Open data is a collection of data, but it's also a collection of incredibly hardworking public servants whose diligence and stewardship make the open data program possible. And throughout the day, if you spot those folks with their hands up, go ahead and give them a good fist bump or elbow bump and say thank you, because they really are the reason that this incredible public resource continues to be available to all of us. I'd also like to thank the incredible open data team at the Office of Data Analytics. Give them a big round of applause too, please. Thank you. And the entire team at the Office of Data Analytics, Zachary, Alex, Kay, Ariana, Alfredo, their dedication, creativity, and deep love for New York City is what makes the Open Data Program what it is. And then, again, a huge thank you to BetaNYC, our partners in creating Open Data Week, who, along with Data Through Design, the Data Through Design Art Collective, make this incredible 10 days happen. Noel, Kate, Jazzy, Z, the Civic Innovation Fellows and Apprenti, all of the volunteers here today, spending what is like finally a first beautiful Saturday in a while inside making this happen. We're so grateful for your partnership both this week and throughout the year. And I'd also like to thank all of the elected officials and other speakers who are here today to nerd out with us and celebrate this amazing public resource. Councilmember Gutiérrez, Councilmember Juan, Senator Gonzalez, thank you so much for being here. And it's also like very fun to be on this incredible power lineup of women. Like, when is the last time you've been to a data or technology conference where all of the keynote speakers were women? Very exciting. I also, on a quick personal note, Noel and I both have young babies at home. My daughter was born actually exactly 15 hours after Noel's son was born. And so, yay! I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm able to go to work each day and think about data and work and to make this incredible public resource available because I have an incredible nanny, Sharon, who takes such loving care of my daughter during the day so that my husband and I go to work and I could do literally nothing without her. And I just wanted to publicly say that so that as all of us are making it work in the different ways that our families are arranged, I think it's important to acknowledge the resources that we have that allow us to do the work that we do. Okay, how many folks have made it over to the Data Through Design exhibit at Prime Produce this year? Oh yeah, oh good, yay, excellent, okay. This year's Data Through Design exhibit is, the theme is Hidden in Plain Sight, which I think is just like a wonderful thing to meditate on today while you're here at School of Data. You're going to learn today from some amazing presenters and trainers about the many things that you can do with open data, and it's true. You can do incredible things with open data. You can answer incredible questions. You can learn about the city. But I think it's also, many of you are also here today to grapple with the limitations of what data can tell us. And I was, really inspired this week by a session that I attended, hosted by the OpenStreetMap team, where participants used geospatial data to explore the ways that women and other historically excluded groups are represented or not represented in public monuments. And it's a great reminder that we always have to ask ourselves, who isn't in this data? What moments in time are going unrecorded in sort of this official record of what government is doing in New York City? Again, on a personal note, for the last 8 months, we've been diligently tracking everything my daughter does, every time she goes to sleep, every time she wakes up, every time she eats. And you just think about, that I have this incredible collection of data, but it really does not represent, the experience that we've had as a family for the last 8 months. And I think it's always a good reminder to think, to ask ourselves, how can we make sure that we're being thoughtful and humble and curious about what we can and cannot say with the city's data, and go into any project or any sort of inquiry with that little voice in the back of our head that that is asking those critical questions. And I know, because you are here today and because you care about the city's public data and you care about New York City, that you already have that voice in the back of your head. And I hope you leave here today feeling more prepared to answer those questions and to go out and do great things with open data. So thank you again for being here, and thank you all, and I hope you have a great day. Yeah.
Excellent. You can also attend Martha's class, where you can, if you're here looking to use open data for the first time, you can attend our open data ambassador class that Martha will be teaching. Next up is the chair of the city's Internet Technology Committee, not Internet Committee, just the Technology Committee, that has direct oversight over Do It, now known as OTI. Let's welcome Jennifer Gutiérrez. Do you want to use a handheld mic? Do you want to use a handheld mic instead of standing behind the podium?
Oh, you think I'm gonna take everyone to class?
No, it's just that this is a little
Oh.
high.
Okay, all right, I'll do it from right here because I'm short. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling? It's a good day to nerd out. Well, thank you so much, Noel, and thank you to the whole NYC Data Week team. My name is Jennifer Gutiérrez. I'm a city council member. I represent Bushwick, Williamsburg, and Ridgewood. And I'm also the chair of the City Council's Technology Committee. City Council. I also grew up right here in Queens, but despite that, still had significant difficulty finding this building. But now I will record it to memory. I know exactly where it is now. So I just want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and of course the whole team and what it took to kind of put this whole conference together. I know that this takes a lot of hard work, and so I also just want to shout out the fact that there is childcare, and that, Noel, you took the time. Yes. And you took the time to just thank all the volunteers, the staff. As someone that worked on staff for a very long time, it feels good that if you are giving up so much of your time and care about something so much, that you're being acknowledged. So I do appreciate that. And thank you for letting me meet your adorable son. What a treat. I don't come from technology. I don't know if you could tell by my Jordans, but I do not come from technology. I was an organizer. That's what I did. I grew up here. My parents immigrated here in the 80s. And when I came back from school, I really wanted to dedicate myself to service. But when I did get elected, I was really, really privileged to chair this committee. But what I did know about that was, I wanted to have a call with Noel and Katie right away when I became chair, but also that what was really important was, and what I could bring to the table, was the conversation around equity and around access. And whether or not you come from a tech background, those lived experiences that I have and that I'm sure so many of us have here, whether you are a first generation, second generation immigrant, you grew up in public housing, you grew up in rent stabilized housing, you were on food stamps, whatever it is, those experiences all really help prepare you for a conversation and the movement about equity and access. And so that was my approach. And since I've become chair, I've held a couple of hearings that really focus that. We've drilled in on this administration about their plans for internet access and the tabling of the internet master plan. We also held an emergency hearing focused on the way that city responds and rolls out emergency services like the crash of the monkeypox vaccine back in August. And more recently, we held a hearing, the first ever hearing on cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Hopefully we'll be having another hearing. And then the other piece is that we also focus on digital literacy and language access. The pandemic made clear how fundamental tech is to our lives, and understanding how the mayor views the city's role in ensuring New Yorkers are connected and literate to new modes of communication is critical to the success of millions, our kids, older adults, immigrants, and the working poor. I want to create access for everyone to be able to use tech to more fully participate in society, and the technology needs to work for everyone. The digital divide is still very real. I think a lot of us feel that where, we had this experience of the last year where we knew we needed to depend on devices and technology, but the reality is that, close to 1 in 4 New Yorkers, or about 25%, still have limited access or no internet in their homes. And when you think about what you do as soon as you wake up, which is go online, and kind of what you do throughout your day, whether it's at work or personal, you're constantly online. Think about your neighbors who do not move in this way, who cannot move in this way. And so we have a really big gap to help close. And another big part of expanding access is making sure that folks who have historically been excluded from the tech industry have tech employment and opportunities, particular people of color and women. And this room, I think, really highlights where the movement and the industry is going. So I just want to acknowledge all of y'all for creating that space and showing up, because it really, really speaks to the representation that we want to see in this industry. I really think that government plays a role. We can use data to help kind of lift up the curtain on how to produce better services and also how to acknowledge where we've gone wrong. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here at this conference. It's filled with so many people who care deeply about using data to lift up our communities, and I just, once again, I thank you. I was recently on a panelist last week where a fellow panelist mentioned that data is the new concrete. And a lot of the work my office does involves getting people to produce more data, to make more data, right? We're constantly asking folks to call 311 for specific things. And it can be frustrating, right? Because they are calling to get immediate effects. But what happens when you call 311 is you're producing data on where the issues are, where the services isn't, where better funding, where we can produce and provide more funding to necessary areas. As well as where we need to be better about trash pickup and green spaces and overall funding. So in order to get more engagement, people need the hardware and the broadband to access the internet and the digital literacy to operate tech. I've been really lucky. I've introduced 2 pieces of ledge, one which would provide public school students with mobile hotspots if they need it, and another that would require the city to report on discounted internet service programs, as well as co-sponsoring a number of bills. Councilmember Julie Wan has also taken a huge lead on this piece as well. And another critical need is increasing the diversity of the tech sector. 22% of tech workers identify as Black or Latinx, and only 9% of software developers are Black or Latino. And meanwhile, women make up 31% of the tech ecosystem and are still paid $5,000 less. Ultimately, what I want to say is when we don't have inclusion in technology and when we don't include people from different backgrounds, there's more thinking. When we do that, we are able to get, I know, I'm almost done. I told you I'd put you right back to sleep. But when we include more people, obviously, we're just doing better and we're thinking about truly what our communities really need. And the more thoughtful we can be about that, that is how we are responding to folks. So universal childcare, right? When we think about what you all did here to provide that to folks, I didn't even realize that. I would have loved to have brought my daughter. But I think just that piece and how we can accommodate workers, how we can accommodate what you need to go back to work. We want to be able to use data to promote that and to be a part of the policy process. So I just want to conclude that data is a foundation element to private and both the public sector. And I am just really honored to chair this committee and to engage with you all. Once again, I do not claim to be an expert, but I understand the value in data. I understand the value in connectivity and inclusion and in access. And in me, you have that champion. So I welcome you all to, the end of Data Week, a very successful Data Week. And I look forward to chatting with you all and hearing from some more folks. Thank you.
And here is what is amazing about having these two back-to-back amazing powerhouse council women, is that we also have the chair of the Contracts Committee, the Committee on Contracts, our home. What is it? The hyperlocal council member. The council member who represents CUNY School of Law is right here, Julie Wan, who's also a former tech worker. So we've got our power in spades. So thank you. Come on up.
Thank you so much, Noel. Good morning. I'm not a podium person, so you're going to see me walking around a little bit. And I don't know, Councilmember Gutierrez, I guess the shoes tell us where we come from, and my Tims are telling me I don't know. I don't know what we expect tech workers to wear, but I know that Jen is one of the coolest council members we have, along with our senator for this district in Long Island City, Senator Kristen Gonzalez, who also is a fellow tech worker. My name is Julie Wan. I represent Long Island City, Sunnyside, Woodside, and Astoria. I do have a non-traditional trajectory into government, where prior to joining the government last year in January, I worked for a legacy Fortune 500 tech company for about 10 years until I made the leap. And as Councilmember Gutierrez alluded to, if it weren't for the pandemic, I probably never would be here with you as a council member. I'd probably be sitting in one of those seats. So for me, as someone who grew up on public school free lunch, when school shut down in the middle of a pandemic, and I was a digital strategy consultant, I was traveling, I was on the road Monday to Thursdays with my firm for my clients all over the world, and I got a call and they said, hey, travel is freezing, we're staying put, we're gonna pivot to remote, and we'll figure it out. And that was fine with me, because for many of us, we're white collar workers who can work remotely, it's okay. Our livelihood was somewhat safe. But I knew as soon as the former mayor, Bill de Blasio, came on and he said, all schools are shutting down, but we will continue to distribute lunch where you could pick it up if you are a student that gets free food. And as someone who grew up depending on that, knowing what it's like to go hungry, I knew that that was not okay. Because for many working moms, as Councilmember Gutierrez talked to, when my parents were working multiple jobs, whether it was a snowstorm outside, a hail, a pandemic, it does not matter. They are going to work as essential workers. And I would be left home alone with my sibling with the doors locked, and they would say, stay inside, eat what's in the fridge, you watch some TV, read a book, I don't know, we'll be back. And I knew that there would be so many kids who would not be able to leave their house to pick up their own lunch. So I started to make some calls to nonprofits that I was on the board of or other friends that I knew, and we started to do hot meal distributions in my district because we have the largest public housing of this country, Queensbridge houses, as well as Ravenswood houses and Woodside houses in my district, where people are living below the poverty line by 200%. And as I was doing the meal deliveries, I met a young girl named Natalie. She was 8 years old. And every single weekday, she would sit at a bus stop to use Link NYC to go to school because her parents simply could not afford internet at home. And as a federal contractor, I knew that that was unacceptable. The mayor at the time was sitting on more than $150 million for broadband internet access, as well as the governor's plan for connectivity, and simply not enough was being done to make sure that these students were connected. So if we were saying that our education is going to be online, our COVID vaccine appointments are going to be made online, our government agency services will be serviced online, yet we don't put the most vulnerable people who need that internet access to be connected, then how is this a government that works for its people? So that's what got me fired up. And I knew that with $20, I could get a mobile hotspot from T-Mobile for 16 to 19 devices. And I knew that it was possible. And that's what started my journey into this strange world of government. But I am happy to say that within the first year, we partnered with both the federal government as well as the city to make sure that every single NYCHA resident in my district has cable TV, free Wi-Fi, and unlimited call and text if you're a NYCHA resident. And that is just the foundation of when we can make sure that our city is using the data that we can harness. My former CEO used to say all the time, our world's largest natural resource now is data. And that is what we have the power at our fingertips if we are able to use it. And I know that many data scientists here know how important it is for us to not only have the data that is floating in the world today, but being able to sift through it, clean it, centralize it, and having an infrastructure in place or an ecosystem to make it useful. And shout out to our Chief Data Officer, but we have a call to action for every single one of you to consider joining the workforce in government. We need you to come with your shoes, whatever you're wearing. We just want you to join because we need more people with your training to be part of the workforce so that we could actually mine the insights that we have, not for anything else, but other than to help people. Because every single day, an example that Councilmember Gutiérrez gave was for constituent services. So right now, within a year and 3 months, my district office has 1,800 cases of constituent inquiries saying, I need this help from the government. And out of the 1,800 cases, if we were to use the current system, which is called CouncilStat, then I would probably not even be at a record of 1,800 cases. And I also would not be able to harness any sort of insight from it because whoever built it did not have the right hypothesis in mind when they built it, unfortunately. Because it was built on the premise that you should measure success of constituent services by the time that it is resolved or closed. And we see this issue with NYCHA, public housing. We see this issue with every single agency because if you are incentivizing workers who work for the government to close out cases as fast as possible, a lot of these issues are very complex. A lot of these issues depend on investment and funding from federal, state, and city government. And it's not something that's going to close within 24 hours or 48 hours. So there are a lot of issues that we can do better on, and we are just getting started. I am also seeing as a chair of contracts, we do not have a centralized data lake for every single agency. And there are all these nuances within agencies, for example, DOE, which is semi-state and city, NYCHA, federal, state, city, where they are gatekeeping their data from the constituents as well as their spending for their budget. Open data is just the beginning of what we can do, and we've made so much progress, but there is so much more work to be done. And just to give you another real-life example of how we've harnessed data, we always talk about in my team in the internal systems that we've set up to make sure that we collect every single data point from our constituents is making sure that we are making decisions based on what we are hearing from our constituents, whether it's social listening, or we're having surveys or any sort of input that we have. Every interaction is recorded and tracked. And we have it tagged so that it's categorized by agency as well as what part of the neighborhood, et cetera. And when I'm making decisions, for example, for land use or for budget, then we always look through our constituent services tracker as well as 311 to cross-reference. And we always talk to the agency at hand to say, okay, these 3 data points tell me a different story, but why is it that we have this discrepancy on what you're hearing, what I'm hearing, and what the agency is hearing? So we do have a lot of work to do. I would love for you to join my team. If you want an internship or if you want to work full-time, please reach out. I know that all of you guys can find us on the internet. And I would love for you to join DOIT, Department of Innovation and Technology for our city. There are vacancies. We want to hire more people like you. So if you're interested or even volunteering, I know that for my district, we have a few folks who have come on board as volunteers for BetaNYC and they do some community outreach with us. All of the work that you're doing is so incredibly valuable and you could have real life impact on how we service our city for constituent services, how we make budgetary decisions, as well as how we inform our our legislative teams to write the bills and the legislation and the laws that can change our lives. So thank you so much. It's so good to meet you all. I will be around. Feel free to come by, and thank you so much.
Excellent, excellent. And we are also joined by the other local elected official, and it is a great honor to have the state's youngest female elected state senator also be the chair of the powerful Internet and Technology Committee, Kristen Gonzalez, also a former tech worker. Come on up. And I think so when the Senate lines were being redistricted, I really wanted to be in Julia Salazar's district, and then I found out that Kristen Gonzalez was running and that she was going to become my state senator, and I was even more excited, but I still love Julia. So I'm so excited to have you here. So I'm going to give you the mic.
Thank you so much. Can I give you a hug?
Yes, yes.
Oh, no.
So glad to have you
Well,
here.
truly one of the best constituents anyone could ask for. Hi, everyone. How are we doing today? We feeling good? My name is Kristen. I represent right here, District 59, which is a brand new Senate seat that covers Queens. We got Queens folks in the house? Yeah. All right, okay. Brooklyn, and oh, yes. And Manhattan. Manhattan in the house? All right, we got to work in Manhattan, but that's okay. But I'll show the other boroughs some love. We got Bronx. Whoop, whoop. All right, okay. And then Staten Island? It's just got to show everyone some love. But yeah, it feels so incredibly good to be here. And, actually, even not only is this my district, but I overlap with the wonderful council members, Gutiérrez and Juan. And I just want to take a moment to send them some love as well, because for the first time, look at these women of color leading on these issues. And that's historic. That's never happened before. And similar to both of their stories, I also am, my path was untraditional to get into politics. I was born and raised right here in Queens in a single parent working household. And when I was really young, I got the chance to go to a private school on the Upper East Side. And so, I really did live the story that we always hear, which is growing up between two New Yorks. And that's why from an early age, when I was in high school, I really wanted to get involved in policy and understand why in a city as diverse and as, wonderful as New York, why there was such breathtaking inequality. And so that led me on a path to go work in levels of government where I learned. I worked in city council writing policy recommendations, asking agencies if they had data on how many young women they served, or what kinds of services they provided, or how many people could be accessing services but weren't accessing those services because they didn't know about it. And so many of those questions were left unanswered. And so one of the first policy recommendations I wrote when I was in college on this advisory council was to start creating and centralizing our data on the city level. But of course, without incredible powerhouses like Juan and Gutiérrez, sometimes those things don't get funded. And I wasn't seeing the change that I wanted to see in my community happening there. So instead, I took it to DC, and I worked in the, Obama White House in the last class of interns doing Latino engagement. I worked in Senator Schumer's office, and like many people, when Trump was elected, it also changed my life, because not only was I then working in Schumer's office, but for the first time, I was really looking around and seeing in DC that a lot of the politicians and career politicians around me were more interested in what corporations had to say than the people right back home, right here in Queens. So instead, I left DC, I came back, I finished my degree, and I transitioned into tech. Because I realized that as, a young woman of color, there were actually a lot of transferable skills that even though, it didn't seem natural for someone who studied political science to do, I could actually bring into the workforce. And so for the last few years, I'd been working as a product manager on a large big data or centralized big data platform for American Express. And it was through that work that I realized exactly what you heard earlier, which is data is more valuable than oil. It's the most valuable thing in the world. And working in tech and working specifically on data is what led me to start organizing in tech. So I started working as part of DSA's Tech Action Working Group. I started working on mutual aid efforts, and it feels especially exciting to be here because through mutual aid efforts, we leveraged some of the data from Open Data New York. We took a mapping of every mutual aid group, and we matched it with people receiving benefits, people who were below the poverty line, and we were able to see a picture of where we were serving some of the most vulnerable New Yorkers, and also where we weren't, where we needed to do more for our mutual aid groups, where we needed to build more community. And so just like that, as you heard also from Noel and others, in a crisis, this work really matters and becomes all the more important. And so I did that, and also my mom, being a special education teacher, saw firsthand that her students weren't showing up for virtual class. When she called them, it was because they didn't have internet at home. And so between the work I was doing in mutual aid efforts to the work I was doing with Tech Action in DSA, we launched an Internet for All initiative. Because similar to what I saw in DC was a common thread of, power doesn't come from the top down. Change doesn't come from the top down. It actually comes from the bottom up. It comes from all of us organizing together, whether it's mutual aid efforts, but even something like bridging the digital divide, right? We need internet to be a utility, be considered a right. Everyone should have access to the internet. And so in launching the Internet for All initiative, we were fighting for it to be a public utility. And we were also saying that New Yorkers pay some of the highest premiums for some of the most subpar service. And just a quick, survey of all of you, let's get some data points right here. How many people are happy with their internet service? All right, it's about half. But not a lot are. And, and so we were fighting for that on the city level. And it was through that organizing that I was actually asked to run for office when this new district was created. And it feels really incredible to be in office and having won that seat, having come from a tech background and organized around tech, because now I'm the chair of the Internet and Technology Committee. So I get to bring these fights to Albany. So while you're hearing about the work that's being done on the city level, and I'm so appreciative of these women for doing that work, on the state level, now the challenges are a little bit different. Because not only do we want to bridge the digital divide, not only do we want to invest in organizations like BetaNYC that are doing the work to democratize our data, but we also realize government collects a lot of data. So right now we're focusing on two things. We're focusing first on data privacy. We want to put New Yorkers in the driver's seat to make sure that we have a say in when our data is collected, how it's used by government agencies, when it's shared with, for example, law enforcement, and also cybersecurity. Because over the last year, we've seen a 38% increase in cyber attacks against our government. And we saw this most recently in two places. We saw it in Brooklyn when we had One Brooklyn Hospitals, which is a network of 3 hospitals in Senator Meyer's district, covering places like Brownsville with some of the most marginalized New Yorkers, be attacked. An entire hospital literally having to go offline and on paper. And that has real world consequences because not only were those patients' data, personal information compromised, but it meant that when doctors were, making their rounds, when they were looking even a feeding, a schedule of when to deliver meals, there was a lot of confusion and people were left not getting the care that they needed or even left out. So that's real world impacts. And then the second time that we saw this was Suffolk County, where we had data stolen for another ransomware attack and found out that those hackers were in Suffolk County's system for over a year, poking around before they actually stole some PII, personally identifiable information. And so I am introducing a bill, the Secure Data Act, to ensure that we have standards for what it means to protect our data, while also introducing other bills that say that as we make sure our data is safe, as we collect data and centralize it, we need to ensure that New Yorkers are informed that there's real transparency and accountability, and that, for example, in situations of location tracking and even, for example, Madison Square Garden, which I don't know how many of you have probably heard, but we have not only government, but billionaires, for example, James Dolan, who owns Madison Square Garden, collecting biometric data, and specifically, in this case, using facial recognition technology, legally at this point, to specifically target lawyers who are part of law firms that are engaged in lawsuits with the garden. So that means that anytime they come, that facial recognition technology is being used and kicking them out. And so right now, we're applying, again, that same lens of not top-down, bottom-up. The government, billionaires, corporations shouldn't be the ones who are deciding when and how and where to use it, but we should be. And that brings us to today, because as we're fighting these fights and as we're creating the world we want to create, all of you are the people who give me hope in Albany, and I'm sure give our council members hope in City Council, because it shows that there are everyday New Yorkers who are invested in this space, who are invested in organizing, not only to make sure that we're leveraging our data with a social justice lens to create new systems and deliver services in the way that they need to be, to tell the stories that need to be told that haven't been told, but all of you in just organizing in your local communities, bringing this out, will be the bottom-up approach that allows us to pass the bills we need to pass or push any city or state or federal agency to do better. Because, again, we have the very few who are trying to make sure that these bills aren't getting passed, but each one of you in this room, collectively, we have the power to change that paradigm and to really set a standard, whether it's for cybersecurity or data privacy or the democratization of data through Open Data New York, through organizations like BetaNYC, to really shift what the future looks like for the city, the state, and set a model for the rest of this country. So it may just be a week and it may today just be a day, but really the effects will continue to go on. And that everything we do today, building that community in every panel, really matters. So I want to thank you all so much for being here, turn it back to Noel and say, let's go fight these fights. So thank you so much. Yeah.
It's amazing that we have such powerful representation for our technology community in our various elected bodies. I remember a day when it wasn't as diverse. It came from a traditional power structure of a political power structure. Our technology background wasn't represented, and so while I respect all of those elected officials who have helped us in the past, I'm really glad to have these three here with us, not only today, but also as elected officials inside of their chamber. And the calls to action to engage with their office is genuine, it's real, they're accessible, and I hope you take that all to heart. And if you're looking to volunteer and you're looking to work on some of these issues, they are available and they're willing to make change happen. All right, let me see. I'm going to put this one down. I'm keeping my eye out in the back room. Jazzy, can you wave your hand frantically? All right, great. This is Jazzy Smith, who's directing our Fellows program. I'm going to grab this microphone because this microphone is going to sound better. Jazzy, give me a heads up when Z's in the room, huh? Great. All right. We've been talking at you a little bit. I'm going to introduce you to three of BetaNYC staff members. So we have Jazzy, raise your hand in the back, if everybody could turn around and see Jazzy. Jazzy leads our fellowship program. Kate, in the middle. The Banana Queen, who has been Director of Partnerships, and Z, who's been running our lab. So those are just some of the BetaNYC staff members that are here today, making sure that this event runs smoothly. Without them, we wouldn't be having such an awesome event. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Please engage with them. We have job opportunities that I'm going to be talking about, but please interface with them as much as possible. And then there's also Dimitri that's running around. Gabby couldn't be here. Dimitri, I can see you. Pop your head in here. Come further. This is Dimitri, who's been helping run the fellowship program. If you're interested, Dimitri's also an associate. If you want to come talk about what it's like to work at BetaNYC, please talk to any one of them. I'm going to burn through the rest of this to contextualize us as quickly as possible, give you a very brief update on what BetaNYC has been doing, and then we can start this conference because I'm pretty sure you want to hear all the great content that we have set up. BetaNYC is fundamentally set its roots in the 4 freedoms. And if you hear my son raspberrying, that's his sound of joy. He's not telling me to hurry up. So, yeah. No, I mean, he's just totally content. And so he's now well fed and has a clean diaper. So he's even happier than that. So BetaNYC is rooted in these 4 freedoms. These are the 4 freedoms that FDR set out in the lead up to going to war in the Second World War. The freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom from want, and the freedom from fear. We're thankful for our elders coming before us, and when the city's charter was found unconstitutional, that they set forth a plan to make sure that government information was accessible using pre-existing case law through FOIL. They set up a foundation using the Commission of Public Information and Communications to create the very first public data directory, which was published in 1989. This is what open data looked like in 1989. Then, we kind of came around through a little bit of a journey ourselves. We started off as a meetup back in 2008. We were the NYC Open Government Meetup. We found ourselves really passionate about this federal initiative that had been put forth by the President Barack Obama, the Open Government Initiative, and we wanted to figure out how we could do something like that here in New York City. We found an ally, Council Member Gail Brewer, who's now back as a council member, who introduced a piece of legislation as part of the Technology Committee that would essentially update what had already been done through the city's open data initiative, which was then COPIC, but now let's create a little piece of legislation. And so now we celebrate the Open Data Day on March 7th as the anniversary of the signing of the city's open data law. And for those of you who are fans of Broadway, this was our time to party. We then took this as a foundational moment to figure out what were the other things that we wanted to address. So we came together as a community and wrote the People's Roadmap, where we then established our 4 freedoms: the freedom to connect, the freedom to learn, the freedom to innovate, and the freedom to collaborate. These 4 freedoms are essentially, they govern everything that we do. We always look back to our programming to make sure that these 4 freedoms are represented in a multitude of ways. You can find their definition in the People's Roadmap. We started hosting hackathons. We realized that hackathons were really kind of like, we're not going to start a business here. We want to kind of iterate. We want to hack on a number of things. We really want to kind of play around the edges and see what could be discussed. What was once Code Across in 2014 has now turned into School of Data. It helped us pass a number of successive pieces of legislation to really give the foundation to the city's open data team and to give some teeth. We then created this fellowship program with CUNY students where we really focused on figuring out how we do data literacy and data education, which gave us a huge opportunity when the Department of Education called and we were able to work with the city's middle school and high school students to host the city's first hackathon inside of City Hall, where they then used the municipal data to tell their story around the issues that they were passionate about and to use their STEM skills to talk to council members and people inside of the administration about the things that they wanted to see changed. And that then helped us further understand how do we translate open data education to the broadest number of people. So we took our existing open data curriculum, went to MODA and said, hey, MODA, we really want to figure out how to scale our open data education program. And since 2019, we have been able to teach over 3,000 New Yorkers. And then we said we want to do more. So we've decided to spread our data literacy exponentially. And so now we have volunteers who are trained and certified through the BetaNYC team and the mayor's office team. And they go through a certification process, and then we put them out into the field. If you want to become certified to teach open data, like Martha is going to teach you today, you can join us. We have an active call and an open call to be an open data ambassador. We certify you, we train you, and then we do the logistical setup so that way you can go out and train your community. Now, as we continue to explore how we do open data literacy, we're working with Councilmember Gutierrez's office, and we're working with North Brooklyn Parks Alliance to use the OpenStreetMap tool, so that way we can go out and quantify the public realm. OpenStreetMap is a fundamental tool that we have access to that helps us map the things that we want to see within our neighborhood. It helps us fill in the gaps that doesn't exist on the open data portal. We see this as a huge opportunity for community organizations, civic associations, individuals to be able to walk through their neighborhood and make sure that the things that they're most passionate about are represented on a map, which then, as open data, we can turn around and do open data analysis on. So our fellows are working with the community to map out particularly spaces inside of public parks. Like, for example, there's no comprehensive data set on where park benches are located. After the COVID-19 pandemic, you would think that park benches are an important resource inside of the city, correct? Yeah? Don't you want to know where the park benches are located? And don't you want to know that if the Parks Department comes by and supposedly renovates your park, that you're not going to lose park benches? Okay, so if you are passionate about all of that, we want you to join our effort as we will go through and hopefully teach people how to map the public realm. Here's an example. Oh my goodness, I forgot to have my notes over here, and Jamal just gave me, thank you, the 5-minute warning. So here's an example of what we're doing when it comes down to, and when I say we, I really mean our awesome fellows and Dimitri and Jazzy, who've come up with a curriculum based upon Teach OSM. So within a 3-hour time span, our fellows went through and matched 39 benches, 1 bicycle parking location, a community bookcase, 59 trash cans, because you know what's also important when you have a public health emergency? Sanitation, right? So it would be important to make sure that trash gets picked up and that you have places to put trash in a public health emergency, right? Those are logical things, right? I'm not just saying that. I mean, like, those are logical things, right? Yeah? Okay. Isn't it weird that the city cut back sanitation services during a public health emergency, and we're now having to argue for more sanitation resources after this public health emergency is continuing to go on? Anyway, our fellows have gone through and mapped the play structures, because while Z did a really great map of what is accessible play infrastructure in parks, we don't actually know what is accessible. Is it the swing that's accessible? Is it that there's a slide that's accessible? What exactly type of play feature do we have? We mapped out street lamp posts, which weren't existing in a data set, a staircase, a fitness station, gardens, and a sports pitch. So we're literally filling in the gaps through this effort using OpenStreetMap. And you'll hear some sessions about that today. So our fellowship program has now grown, and we've not only added an apprenticeship program, but we now have an associate's program. These are our fellows through the years. Our fellowship, if you haven't heard of it, it's CUNY undergraduate students, so associates and graduate degree. When CUNY students are made aware of the Service Corps program, we tell your friends to join the Service Corps program, because that's how we get our CUNY fellows. We've so far educated 85 students from 12 CUNY schools. They come from all 5 boroughs. They're primarily first or second generation immigrants or children of immigrants. It's been a gendered balance program, so we're sitting at 50-50, which is, well, there are more than 2 genders, but it's been a very gender balanced program in regards to male and female representation. It comes from the associates, undergraduates, and graduates, and has given all of our fellows an opportunity to understand what is civil service. I know I'm going to run over Jamal, I'm sorry. And it's paid, which is amazing. So we've now extended this to an associates and apprenticeship program where we take selected individuals and we keep them under our wing. We give them the professional development that they need. Council member and senator, thank you very much for attending. Okay, we employ them as either community board discretionary action consultants, so we have contracts with community boards, so that way they can take their skills and work with community boards directly. We have civic innovation lab staff that work on radars. They are apprentices, and they're communications Yeah, communications, talk about that. Communications coordinator. We are currently looking for a community board associate, and we're also looking for we're looking for graduate students to come work with us inside of the lab. So if you know of any grad students who do front end or data engineering, we want to work with them. These are also paid positions. These are not volunteer gigs. And what are they working on specifically? Radars. Radars are our form of help desk. So far, we've been able to address 226 radars since launch. Radars are exactly what I said. They are a form of help desk where if you need help trying to understand open data, if you need to build a survey, if you need to have some type of insight, come to us. We'll help you out. We'll help you unpack or quantify what you need to know. Some of the radar highlights are going to be represented today in room, right here in this room, at 1:45 to 2:45, mapping equity in the public realm and centralizing community board calendars will be discussed, which is two of the radars that we've worked on. From 3 to 4 in room 3302, our work for the Housing Data Coalition will also be represented. And then Z is going to postpone the session that he had on using open data to analyze urban noise into a Beta Bagels civic engagement event later on. But we've been able to help council members more or less look through open data. This is a service that we provide. If you ever need help, get radared. We want to help you. We want to demystify open data. So BetaNYC radar. For those of you who are JLo fans, radars really are our star flagship performance. It's where we get to show off all of our skills, all of our dance moves, our singing talent, our flamboyantness. So come help us give our students an opportunity to grow their portfolio so that way they too can be like JLo and her daughter at the Super Bowl. So Open Data Week's story. For those of you who don't know, we launched in 2017. We've so far served over 30,000 New Yorkers. This week's data points to know is that we had 107 presenters, 55 organizations, 57 events, and over 7 days of amazing content. And it really feels like Hamilton winning the Tony Awards here. Or is this the Grammys? That's a Grammy. Oh, what? How'd that get in there? I don't know. Most of you know what School of Data is, but for those of you who don't know, this is a community conference. As I started off, sometimes it's a little rough around the edges, particularly around time management, and I apologize. What are we focused on here today, just to make sure that you understand why we're here and how this conference is different than a regular technology conference? Our focus is on civics, civic design, civic tech, and civic data. We have a very focused theory of change, which is that through these conversations, we're able to improve not only government operations, but also our understanding of technology, data, and design. So you're here around panels, workshops, and office hours. This is a straight up Care Bears moment because as you saw from Martha, there's a very good representation from city employees. So who's the city employee who's here today? All right, look at those hands. Most of them, I don't think they get paid to be here on a Saturday, do they? Nope, that's right. So this is the straight up Care Bears moment where we're all coming together to improve our city. Logistics, we try to minimize paper because it wastes trees. Trees are a special resource. We want them to give us air, not necessarily to give us information. So you can use your digital device to get our schedule. We are going to very briefly, I'm going to shut up very soon. We're going to go into session 1, then we're going to have lunch. Lunch is going to be spread out on the 2nd and 3rd floor. You are on the 2nd floor right now, just to give you context. Lunch will be where you had breakfast. On the 3rd floor, lunch is going to be in a room on that far side of the building. Please give yourself ample time to walk around this venue. This venue, while it may seem small, is deceptive because the rooms are fairly big. You have 15 minutes between each session to get around. Please respect people's time. Nobody's getting paid to be here to present, so please do show up on time. Each session is an hour long, so there's ample time to engage. If you are sticking around for the closing reception that starts at 5:30, and you want to drink an adult beverage that has a few octanes in it, we have to card you per New York City law. So starting at lunch, the reception desk downstairs is going to look at your identification and give you a wristband, and then you can have some fun beverages from Rockaway Brewery or things that we got from Dandelion Wine. We'll also have non-alcoholic beverages, which I carried on my cargo bike yesterday. Thanks, Eric, for being my escort, which was a fun little adventure to carry 40 bottles of wine on a bicycle. The other thing that I want to make sure that you know is that we recycle the lanyards and the laminated tags. So when you're walking out of the building and you're done for the day, please give them back to us. This actually saves us a significant amount of money. So you'll find bins downstairs. When you hear a cowbell, that means that the session is done. So please respect to the bell. Check out our cafe on the 3rd floor, which is up. There's a secret staircase that you should all know about. So when you walk out of this room, there's a staircase to the left, and then on the right you have the escalator and the elevator. Please try to reserve the elevator for those who need it the most. Some self-care and healthy habits. I think we've all been in the practice of doing the Vulcan salutes and elbow bumps for the last few years. Understand people are still into that sort of thing, and that helps us keep ourselves health and safety and well. We do ask that you wear a mask. This is like a non-negotiable situation. If you are not actively drinking or eating, we ask you to wear a mask. We have all of the data around this. If you don't wear a mask and we ask you to wear a mask and you've refused to wear a mask, we're going to ask you to leave the venue. And there's not going to be a refund. And I'm just going to be frank about it. Like, we need you to wear a mask. So if you don't have a mask, we've got ample masks. You want an N95, KN95, we've got that. You want it in medium, you want it in large, you want it in kid size, we got that. We got surgical masks. So we got masks out the wazoo. We need you to wear them because that's what helps us stay safe. So stay hydrated. You can't drink through your mask, so that's when you can take your mask off. We need you to be hydrated because that's what fuels your brain. If you need help, or if you're joining us for our happy hour, please visit our Genius booth, which is located where? Where's our Genius booth again?
You are the genius.
I don't know where our Genius booth is. I think it's our Genius booth is walking around. They're all wearing vests. Talk about the conduct and photo consent. First of all, we want you to be respectful, listen for as much as you talk. Photo policy. How many of you know about the black and red lanyards? If somebody's wearing a red lanyard, just ask them if they want to be in your photo. Black lanyard is more or less carte blanche. You can take their photo, but be nice. We have a code of conduct policy. You violate the code of conduct policy, we're going to ask you to leave. With that, I now say thank you for being here. Sorry for running a little bit late. Time to go hack the planet, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you back all in this room at 5.